Even you have more manners than your boss. I'm pleasantly surprised. The woman nods, touching his cheek and patting it. Jungkook flinches when he meets the coldness of her fingers, and stares fearfully into the brown eyes in front of him. I suppose thanks, chuckles softly as she lets Jungkook close the door, watching his every move too calmly. And it seems to Jungkook that for the first time he wants to sink into the ground so badly. Never before had he been so worried. He would like to admit, at least to himself, that he did not experience such excitement even when he danced a striptease for someone for the first time. Or when he was undressing in front of Mr. Kim. Well, licking his parched lips, he clears his throat as he turns around and meets the woman still standing nearby, who has become his savior today from Mr. Hanbin's lustful hands. "I thank you again. Thanks to you, I was released much earlier, so now I can safely go home. She shakes her head, as if disappointed in his bungling lies. Get in the car. You've wasted a lot of my time already. Did I say something you didn't understand? Taisha arches an eyebrow as Jungkook feels his ribs clamp into a vice in his lungs. I don't know, Mom. I'm just… Why, she sighs, becoming annoyed as she takes a few steps toward him with a clatter of her heels and briefly pats his cheek again. It's enough for you that I said so. Get in the car. Ah yes, she nods, pleased at his quick fix, and gives the boy another short smile as she pivots on the stiletto heels of her pointed-toed patent leather pumps, and then proudly begins to move to where the car is parked, wordlessly inviting Jungkook to follow her. And from now on it's Mrs. Kim to you, she just adds, once again causing all of Jungkook's internal organs to shrink to atoms. One day, the surname Kim will destroy him, and now he does not even know which of its representatives this death will come from. However, what Jungkook knows for sure is that he is doomed. Finally and irrevocably dragged into the abyss, from which he no longer knows how to get out. And the only thing he sees in it is Kim. If before that Jungkook thought that there were awkward situations in his life, he can forget about them, because this one situation rightfully now takes the position of the most awkward one. Like, ever. Here I thought I asked you to stop wasting my time, the woman sighs, snapping her fingers, and the driver appears from the car in a pressed black uniform, with white gloves on his hands and a back cap on his head. He's almost rooted to the ground as the man walks around the car, courteously opening the back door for him. And Jungkook, to be honest, never imagined himself in the place of the rich kids that he often saw in the Gossip Girl that was on TV when he was a schoolboy. But, in fact, if he lived like that every day, then he probably would have gone crazy. It feels foreign and unfamiliar, and the boy is so frightened that even now he might do something wrong. And how long will you look at me? Taisha asks with a chuckle, and then nods suggestively at the open door. Get in the car. Now. Yes, Mrs. Kim. Jungkook is embarrassed. He's really scared and has no idea what's going on, but the Kim family puts him in a state of cold horror and complete numbness, killing any courage to tell them no. So he obediently nods, pulling his backpack off his shoulder, and takes a step towards the car, suddenly meeting the driver's eyes. Hello, sir, the man, without moving from his place, only looks briefly at the boss, without saying a word. Jungkook swallows. Okay. Maybe they, disgustingly rich people, he means, don't say hello to drivers. So, taking a deep breath and filling his lungs with frosty evening air, which gives goosebumps all over the body, the boy climbs inside. and now his heart sinks into his heels. He freezes, never climbing into the car, because his attention is lost in the painfully familiar green eyes of a man whom he is accustomed to seeing only in neon light and nightclub spotlights. Mr. Kim. Good evening. This is the only thing Jungkook manages to get out of himself. Stop keeping my wife out in the cold and sit down, Kim only commands, but there's no sound of anger, and the boy feels himself nauseous with excitement. No, seriously, he's about to throw up. And he will never pay for the cleaning of the interior of this expensive car. Unless he sells a kidney or something. I'm sorry, sir. Jungkook immediately mutters a bashful apology as he sits down next to the man and reflexively tries to shrink down to take up as little space as possible. Has he already mentioned that he is embarrassed? Tasha, holding the hem of her long coat, sits down, and the driver carefully closes the door behind the woman, immediately bypassing the car and getting behind the wheel. Jungkook swallows, and then closes his eyes. He did it so embarrassedly loud that he could literally feel how this sound cut the ears of everyone present. And now Jungkook is afraid to even take a breath. How did it go? Taehyung asks casually, glancing at his wife as if there is no Jungkook sitting between him and the woman right now. Hanbin was a complete jerk, as always. She shrugs, reopening her laptop and placing the thin, dainty device in her lap. Nothing new, dear. Once again he thought being rude to me was a good decision. Oh, he's just sure you won't hurt him. Well, she chuckles as she starts typing, and Jungkook sinks into his seat, feeling like he's the third wheel. Jack Trout who call estate at a chaos says one, darling. But Hanbin needs to be taught a lesson before he gets a little wild. I won't always be in the mood to just shut his mouth. You know, he'll get his lesson when I beat him in next month's auction. Taehyung sends her a tight smile, and Tisha, looking away from her laptop, gives her husband the same one. Will it make you happy? Take everything you can from him and it will cheer me up for the day or two. Great. The man nods in satisfaction, and Tasha goes back to her work. Victor Taehyung presses the button to lower the barrier and calls out to the driver. Are we going or not? Yes, sir. The moth, it's always the moth. Taehyung nods with a chuckle, and presses the button on his door, leaving the three of them alone again. He exhales, relaxing as the car starts to move, and finally turns his attention to the boy. Jungkook, Taehyung coos, grinning wide, completely enjoying just looking at him right now. And I've missed you already, Mr. Kim. Jungkook greets him again, nervously swallowing another lump in his throat. It's good to see you again, the man smirks, and Jungkook remains silent, not finding it necessary to say anything to that, so Taehyung rolls his eyes. You won't even say thank you for being pulled out of the Hanbin's hands? I have already said, sir. Jungkook nods politely to your wife. Tisha clicks her tongue but doesn't look away from her work. For God's sake, both of you are annoying me. Darling, who taught you to talk to the little boys like that? You won't even ask how his day went. Jungkook is almost shaking. He doesn't know how to control it, but something in his stomach is trembling, sending the same feeling through every limb as soon as he hears her voice and realizes what she's saying, and then he sees Mr. Kim sigh. I'm very grateful to you for your help, darling. But maybe you will let me talk to him without your participation. Without my participation you would now be driving home angry and unsatisfied, darling, she notes. And you're going to the club, and even with your boy next to you. You could be grateful. I'm always grateful to you. I can't see it. I'll fix it, if you'd be so kind. She nods, satisfied with this answer, and continues her work. Taehyung, sighing deeply again, puts on a tired smile and shifts his gaze to Jungkook, lazily throwing his hand on the back of the cream leather seat and brushing the boy's bangs with his fingers. "Well, and how was your day? You're not interested, Mr. Kim," Jungkook mutters, feeling even more terrified at the realization that the man's wife is sitting right on his right. "If I'm asking something, I want to know, baby," Jungkook swallows. "Baby. Okay." Mr. Kim just called him baby while his wife is in the same car. Interesting. Jungkook has already shared how much he wants to die because of everything that happened today, right? And he can tell you about it a dozen more times, because, perhaps, by midnight he will be completely hit by a bus. You can't be that lucky, can you? And he's been lucky this whole as always, sir. University, then work. Nothing special. You told me that you missed dinner and did not go to the shower. Yes. Are you hungry? I don't know. No, sir. No, but you didn't eat. No, and not hungry, not much, Tisha said as she skims her fingers over the keys and breaks up their dialogue again. Why don't you two have dinner then? Taehyung raises an eyebrow, grinning at the corner of his lips, and still doesn't take his eyes off Jungkook, continuing to play with his hair. Great idea. Would you like to join us for dinner? Honey, I have my own plans. What a pity. Jungkook wants to fall through the ground. Although, in fact, he would not mind at all if this car drove off the bridge right now, getting hit by a bus. Everyone in this car is cursed, and they all deserve to be driven off the bridge. Jungkook cannot be the only one among them who realizes this. How is the university? The man suddenly speaks up again, looking at Jungkook's face. Is the economics still interesting to you? Do you remember what I study, Mr. Kim? Yes, I kind of remembered it. So not that interesting, to be honest. But I'm trying. My winter exams are coming soon. Jungkook has no idea why he's talking about this. But Taehyung's gaze is so intense, it wanders over his face, down to his neck, and then back up to his eyes. He studies him with that genuine interest that borders on childish delight at the sight of a newly presented toy, and Jungkook doesn't know if it flatters him or makes him want to empty his stomach as soon as possible. Even more frightening is the thought that he is experiencing both at the same time. Are you ready for the exams already? Well, I'm working hard, sir. I always have textbooks with me. I try to study whenever I have some free time, and you're doing so well. Taehyung nods contentedly. Such a good student, aren't you? The professors will surely praise you. I do well in many subjects, sir. I need to study if I don't want to lose the scholarship. Scholarships, Taehyung laughs, throwing his head back, and then exhales, eye gleaming. He's looking at Jungkook and returns to playing with his bangs, but again turns to his wife. Did you hear that, Tisha? The scholarships still exist. And someone is studying hard for it. Of course they exist. The woman snorts. Why did you think they're not? I don't know. What's the point finding this amusing? Taehyung seems to be asking the most stupid questions on purpose, irritating his wife a little and confusing the boy. His boy. Huh? Jungkook, the man, arches an eyebrow, grinning. What's the point? Tell me. Taehyung is so happy and glad right now just from the feeling that poor little Jungkook is sitting in his car and going with him to the mosque that he even begins to annoy with his positivity. His wife in particular. But Jungkook doesn't say anything, only swallows too nervously and loudly, and in turn looks at the woman. and she's typing on her laptop something so selflessly that it seems she's no longer going to save him from the nonsense that comes from Mr. Kim's mouth. No, no, the man's soft voice reaches his ears again, and Jungkook feels the firm grip of Taehyung's fingers on his chin as the man turns him around and brings him face to face. Why are you looking at her? I'm talking to you, baby, look at me. No need to wait for answers from my dear wife, sir. So what's the point of scholarships? Jungkook Jungkook clears his throat, berating himself for the dryness in his mouth, his voice even more trembling, and he looks away for a second, but Mr. Kim's fingers are still clenching insistently on his chin, so much so that the boy forces himself to raise his eyes, colliding with the green ones that with this devilish light continue to study him. The scholarship, the university takes over part of your tuition fees. It's a great option for those who can't afford full pay, I guess, Mr. Kim. Can't you afford it? He lets out a chuckle. A nasty, disgusting, derisive chuckle that Jungkook wants to spit in his face for, to be honest. I obviously can't, sir, Jungkook mutters through gritted teeth. I'm working for you for some reasons, Kim Taehyung. The indignant voice of his wife suddenly echoes through the car. You mind telling me what do you think you're doing?